Okay. I want you to try something for me. It's a simple exercise, but it requires you to just shut out the noise of the modern world for a moment.
Hmm.
Imagine you are stepping outside right now into the dark. It's the middle of the night. The air is cold. You look up,
Hmm.
and there it is, the moon.
Right. I'm with you.
Now, be honest with me.
Hmm.
In our modern context, with everything you know about science, space exploration, and, physics, what do you actually see?
Well, if I'm stripping away all the poetry and just looking with my 21st century eyes, I see a rock.
Yeah, a rock.
I see a satellite. It's a ball of gray dust, pockmarked with craters. I know it's geologically dead. I know it has no atmosphere. I know that a few guys from the 1960s left some boot prints, a flag,
A few golf balls.
and a few golf balls up there, yeah. Basically, I see a physical object. It's just there.
It's scenery.
It's scenery, exactly.
It's a rock. It's passive. It's a piece of furniture in the sky. But if we rewind the clock, and I'm talking about a very specific, fascinating slice of history here, roughly between the years 700 and 1600 CE, that object in the sky transforms completely.
Oh, completely.
It stops being a rock and starts being
Completely.
passive. It becomes a person. It becomes a god. It becomes a diagnostic tool for your doctor to decide if he should, cut you open.
Wow.
It becomes a map for your farm. It becomes a place you can travel to, not in a rocket, but in a dream or a trance or a flaming chariot.
It becomes a mirror. That's the key image I kept seeing.
That is the perfect way to put it. It's a mirror.
So today we're doing a massive deep dive into the source material, the medieval moon. A History of Haunting and Blessing by Ayoush Lazikani. It's a 2025 publication. And the first thing that really hit me reading this is that for medieval people, there wasn't just the moon.
No.
There were moons, plural. That is the core thesis of Lazikani's work, and it's such a refreshing take. I mean, we tend to fall into this trap of thinking of the Middle Ages as this monolithic, gray block of time where everyone thought the same thing.
Right, something we just call superstitious or backward.
Exactly. But Lazikani argues that the moon was a shapeshifter. It was an active participant in human life. Its identity shifted constantly depending on who was looking at it and when they were looking at it. It was a she, a he, and an it.
And we aren't just talking about medieval Europe here, are we? Because I think that's the other trap we fall into. We hear medieval and we immediately picture knights in England or, monks in France.
Precisely. The source material takes what Lazikani calls a global Middle Ages approach, and it's crucial because the moon is the one thing every human on Earth shares. She uses this beautiful metaphor.
The avian perspective.
Yeah.
I love that.
The bird's eye view. Imagine a bird flying across the globe, shifting its gaze from England to China, from the Islamic world to Polynesia, from the Maya in the Americas to Japan. We aren't just comparing them for the sake of it. We're looking for the patterns that connect these cultures. We're looking at how the human brain, regardless of where it is on the planet or what language it speaks, tries to make sense of that same white orb in the sky.
So we have a massive roadmap for this deep dive. We're going to try and figure out what the moon actually was to these people. Was it a riddle? A planet? A god?
All of the above.
Then we're going to look at space travel.
Yeah.
And yes, medieval space travel, which is infinitely wilder and more psychological than, say, Star Trek.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely not about warp drives. It's about the soul.
We'll get into how the moon predicted the future, how it physically pulled on the fluids in your body to make you sick or heal you, and finally how it messed with our heads as a trickster and a symbol of sorrow.
It's a lot to unpack, but I promise you it really changes how you look at the night sky.
You will not see just a rock anymore.
You won't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's start with section 1, identity, the riddle of the moon. Because in the source material, it seems like people weren't just observing it. They were constantly asking, what is this thing?
They were constantly interrogating it. It wasn't a settled fact. And in Old English literature, specifically in the Exeter Book, which is this incredible treasure trove of 10th century poetry, the moon is literally presented as a riddle.
I love these riddles.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like little logic puzzles from 1,000 years ago, but they're also just so poetic. Walk us through Riddle 29.
Okay, so Riddle 29 describes a creature, but it doesn't say, I am the moon. It frames this creature as a warrior, and this warrior is carrying plunder between its horns.
Plunder, okay.
It has this intense desire to build a home, a castle in the sky. It wants to settle down. But then another creature, the sun, comes roaring over the horizon and chases it away, stealing back the plunder.
And the plunder is the light, right? The horns are the crescent shape.
Exactly. The moon has stolen the sun's light. But I want you to notice the personality they give it. The moon isn't just reflecting light physically, it's a thief. It's a warrior carrying stolen goods.
It has a will.
It has a will, it wants to build a home, but it represents this tragic figure of the exile. It's constantly being chased out of town by the sun.
That feels surprisingly emotional for a riddle about a celestial body. Like, it's homeless, it's a vagrant.
That theme of homelessness is pervasive. It comes up again in Riddle 39. The moon is described there as a creature with no skin, no mind, no blood. It's a wanderer. It brings comfort to humans by lighting the night, but it has no permanent place of its own. It's defined by its lack of belonging.
It's almost like they were projecting their own social anxieties onto the sky.
Right.
I mean, the fear of being in exile was very real in Anglo-Saxon culture, wasn't it?
Oh, precisely. If you were exiled from your kin, from your lord, you were nothing. You were vulnerable. And they saw that same tragedy playing out in the heavens every single night. The moon is the ultimate wanderer. But if you shift gears to the Old Norse tradition, the identity gets even more fragmented. There's a poem called Alvismal, where the god Thor is quizzing a dwarf. He asks the dwarf, "What is the moon called in all the different worlds?"
And the answer isn't just the moon, is it?
No, it's a whole catalog of perceptions, the
Yeah.
dwarf says. Humans call it moon. The gods call it ball. The people in hell call it the wheel.
The wheel. That's ominous. It implies torture or something cyclical and inescapable.
It does, like you're being broken on the wheel. And the giants, they call it the goer. The elves call it the counter of years.
So to an immortal elf, it's just a clock.
It's just a clock. It didn't have a fixed ontology. It was defined entirely by who was looking at it. It's all relative.
But okay, let's pivot to the science,
Right.
because I don't want listeners to think medieval people only spoke in riddles and metaphors. They had astronomy. They had math.
They absolutely
They
did.
knew it was a planet.
Right. They did. In both the Christian and Islamic scientific traditions, which were heavily influenced by Greek thinkers like Ptolemy, the moon was considered the closest planet to Earth. It was a crucial part of their whole cosmological model.
We need to explain the spheres, though, because their model of the universe was so specific and so different from our solar system model.
Right. Picture the Earth. It's in the absolute center, stationary. It does not move.
Okay.
Then imagine these concentric, transparent glass spheres nesting around it like those Russian dolls. The moon is embedded in the very first sphere, the smallest one closest to us.
So it's the borderland.
It is the borderland, the threshold, and this is crucial for understanding their worldview. Everything below the moon, the sublunary sphere, is Earth.
Right.
It's messy. It's composed of the four elements: earth, air, fire, water. It's where things are born, get sick, rot, and die. It's the realm of change and corruption.
And everything above the moon.
That's the superlunary realm. That is the realm of the divine. It's made of a fifth element, the ether. Everything up there is eternal, perfect, unchanging.
The stars don't rot.
The stars don't rot, the planets don't die, so the moon is sitting right on the fence. It's the gateway between the corruptible earth and the perfect heavens. It touches both worlds.
Which explains why it has physical qualities that are sort of halfway.
Yes. It was defined as cold and moist. The sun is hot and dry. The moon is cold and wet. That sounds simplistic, but that definition is the bedrock of medieval medicine, which we'll get to. It's the cooling counterbalance to the sun.
One thing I found really funny and actually quite contentious in the source material was the debate over why the moon has spots.
Oh, yeah.
Because if it's supposed to be a heavenly body in the first glass sphere and everything above the moon is perfect ether, it should be perfect, shouldn't it? It should be a polished diamond, but it's got these smudges on it.
That was a massive theological and scientific headache. You couldn't just say it's dirt because heavenly things aren't dirty. So you had the scientific theory championed by the Islamic philosopher Averroes and later adopted by Dante in the Divine Comedy.
This is the thick and thin theory.
The thick and thin theory. Basically, they thought the moon was made of the same pure material throughout, but some parts were denser than others. The dense parts reflected light differently, creating the illusion of spots.
That's a clever way to save the perfection of the moon while still explaining the visual data.
It is. But then you had the visual theory, which I think is more poetic.
The mirror theory.
The mirror theory. This idea suggests that the moon is a perfect, smooth mirror, and what we are seeing, the dark spots, are actually the reflection of the Earth's oceans and mountains.
I kind of love that. The idea that when we look at the moon, we are just looking at a reflection of our own geography. It makes the universe feel smaller, more intimate.
It creates a closed loop, you know, Earth and moon staring at each other.
We aren't looking at an alien world, we're looking at a selfie.
Exactly. But then there's the mythic theory. And this one is darker. It brings us back to that idea of the moon as a place of exile.
The man in the moon.
In Christian folklore, the spots were said to be Cain, the first murderer from the Bible, banished to the moon for killing his brother Abel. He's up there carrying a bundle of thorns, doomed to circle the earth forever.
Or in the Romance of the Rose, it's a serpent with a tree on its back.
A serpent, yeah. It's fascinating how they couldn't just let it be a geological feature. It had to be a story. It had to be a moral lesson plastered on the sky.
Nothing is just matter.
Everything is meaning. If there's a spot on the moon, God put it there to tell us something.
Speaking of meaning, we have to talk about the moon as a deity. Because even in the Middle Ages, with Christianity and Islam being dominant, these old moon gods didn't just vanish. They kind of lingered in the literature like ghosts.
No, the personification remained very strong. In Europe, you have Diana, or Cynthia, or Lucina. The source material highlights Chaucer's The Knight's Tale, where there's a prayer to Diana. And she is not a cuddly goddess.
No.
She's the huntress. She's powerful, fearful. She's depicted with a waxing moon beneath her feet. She represents the dangerous, wild aspect of the night.
That cold, distant power. But if we fly over to China using that avian perspective, we get Chang'e. And I think her story resonates a bit more with that theme of loneliness we saw in the Anglo-Saxon riddles.
Chang'e is a central figure in Chinese lunar lore. The legend says she was a mortal woman, and depending on the version you read, she either drank an elixir of immortality to save it from a thief, or she drank it out of curiosity or greed.
But either way, the result is the same.
The result is the same. She becomes light, and she floats up to the moon.
And she can never come back.
Right. She lives there in the Moon Palace, usually with a companion, the Jade Rabbit or a hare, who is constantly pounding herbs in a mortar to make more elixir. Chang represents a very specific kind of feminine strength, but also profound loneliness. She's immortal, she's beautiful, but she's isolated from humanity. She watches the world she left behind.
And then swinging over to the Americas, Maya and Inca had their own lunar royalty.
The Popol Vuh of the Maya tells the epic story of the hero twins, one of whom ascends to become the moon. But the Inca cosmology is particularly interesting regarding gender. They saw the moon as Koya the queen. She was the sister and wife of the sun, and she specifically governed childbirth and the sea.
It's interesting that across so many cultures, Inca, Roman, Chinese, the moon is female and tied to childbirth or feminine power.
It is, but then you have the Norse Mani, who is male, or in German traditions, the moon is often male, der Mond.
So it's not fixed.
Exactly. That gender fluidity is key. The moon defies a single categorization. It's a shapeshifter.
Okay, let's unpack this idea of the moon as a place you can go. Section 2, the moon is a destination. Because when I read medieval space travel, I thought, surely not. I thought space travel was a Jules Verne invention or H.G. Wells. But people were writing stories about going there 1,000 years ago.
They absolutely were. But the motivation was totally different. It wasn't about exploration or science or planting a flag. It was about theology and morality. And before we get to the voluntary travel, we have to talk about the involuntary kind.
Exile.
We touched on Cain, but the man in the moon tradition in the West is really about the moon as a prison.
A penal colony in the sky? Like Australia, but in orbit?
Essentially. It stems from a story in the Bible, in the book of Numbers, about a man caught gathering sticks on the Sabbath. In the Bible, he's stoned to death. But medieval folklore retconned that.
Well, they gave him a different sentence.
They did. They decided he wasn't killed, he was banished to the moon.
There's this Middle English poem simply called The Man in the Moon that the source material analyzes in detail.
Yeah.
And it is tragicomedy at its finest.
It's hilarious and it's sad. The poem describes this peasant, we'll call him Hubert, as the poem suggests, stuck up there. He's carrying a bundle of thorns that are constantly pricking him. He's freezing cold. He's terrified of falling off.
And he moves slowly.
Right. The poem makes a point to say he is the slowest man ever born.
Because the moon moves so slowly across the sky.
Exactly. He's trudging along, completing one circuit a month, never getting anywhere. And the narrator of the poem, Down on Earth, is shouting advice to him.
That's the best part.
The narrator's like, hey, Hubert, bring your bundle down here. We can bribe the bailiff. We can get you off the hook.
It's such a medieval solution. Just bribe the cop.
I know a guy. We can fix this. But Hubert just ignores him. The poem says he's deaf or silent. It emphasizes the sheer, unbridgeable distance. You can shout at the moon all you want, but the exile isn't coming home.
It's a story about social isolation, being cut off from your community.
Totally. But then you have the Italians, and they don't see it just as a prison. They see it as a junkyard,
Hmm?
or maybe a cosmic lost and found.
An Archive of Human Vanity. This is from Orlando Furioso by Ariosto, written in the 16th century.
It's an epic poem. There's a knight named Astolfo. He needs to help his cousin Orlando. Orlando is the greatest knight in the world, but he has gone mad. He's lost his wits because of a failed love affair.
So he's running around Europe, naked, uprooting trees. He is totally gone.
He is. So Astolfo needs to find a cure. So he hops on a flaming chariot driven by St. John the Evangelist.
As one does.
Because why walk when you can take a flaming chariot? And they fly to the moon.
And what do they find there?
They find that the moon is the place where everything lost on Earth ends up. But it's not just lost keys or socks. It's metaphysical things.
This list is poetic genius. I was reading it and laughing, but it also kind of hurts.
It does. Astolfo sees unanswered prayers. He
Yeah.
sees broken promises. He sees the tears of lovers. He sees useless fame. There are mountains of tumid bladders, which represent ancient crowns and kingdoms that have collapsed and are now just empty, swollen bags of air.
Ouch. That's a sharp political critique.
Yeah.
All your power is just a bag of wind on the moon.
It gets sharper. He sees soup bowls, which represent charity that was given too late to matter, just soup left out to go cold. It's a whole catalog of human regret.
It's a critique of Earth, isn't it?
Uh,
The moon is holding a mirror up to our vanity. It's saying all that stuff you think is important, it's just trash piling up in a crater.
it is. The moon is a waste body. It collects our moral failures. But Astolfo is there for a practical reason. He finds a mountain of bottles containing wits. Every bottle is labeled with a name.
And he finds Orlando's.
He finds Orlando's sanity in a bottle.
And the kicker, he finds his own, too.
He does. He's surprised to find a bottle with his own name on it. He takes a sniff of his own lost wits and becomes smarter and more articulate for a while.
For a while.
For a while, yeah. The story implies he eventually loses them again when he returns to Earth. Because on Earth, to be human is to be a little bit mad.
That is profound. To be sane, you have to leave the Earth. So the West, the moon is where we send our exiles and our trash. But then you look at Japan, specifically the tale of the bamboo cutter, and the dynamic flips completely.
This is such a beautiful and melancholic story. It's the oldest surviving Japanese fiction dating back to the 10th century. It tells of a bamboo cutter who finds a tiny, glowing girl inside a bamboo stalk. He raises her, and she grows up to be the radiant Princess Kaguya.
But she's not from here. She's an alien, technically.
She is. She's from the moon capital. And this is the twist. She was sent to Earth as a punishment.
What?
To the moon people, Earth is the filthy place. Earth is the prison. Earth is where you go when you've been bad.
That is a total reversal of the Hubert story. For Hubert, the moon is the punishment. For Kaguya, Earth is the punishment.
Completely. And the tragedy is that Kaguya forms deep attachments here. She loves her foster parents. She has human emotions. She experiences sorrow and joy.
She becomes human in a way.
She does. But when her sentence is up, on the full moon of the 8th month, a moon troop comes down on clouds to retrieve her.
She doesn't want to go.
She weeps. She begs for a little more time. She clings to the bamboo cutter. But the moon beings are cold. They don't care about human emotion. They force her into a robe of feathers.
That's it.
And the moment that robe touches her shoulders, the magic takes effect. She forgets all her human memories, her love for her parents, her attachment to the earth. It's all wiped clean. She becomes a moon being again, cold, pure, unattached.
That is heartbreaking.
Mhm.
It portrays the moon not as a junkyard, but as a place of terrifying purity that erases human warmth.
Precisely. It contrasts the filthy but loving earth with the pure but heartless moon. It asks the listener, is it better to be perfect and unfeeling or flawed and full of love? The story clearly sides with the earth.
Okay, moving from travel to section 3, reading the skies, prophecy and signs. Because if the moon is this powerful force, this destination, this god, surely it's telling us something.
Reading this right. Bede, the English monk, and later Elfric, they wrote extensively about the link between the moon and the tides. They understood the correlation perfectly. They even believed the moon pulled on the marrow inside your bones and the sap inside trees.
Which makes sense if you think about it. If you see the moon pulling the ocean, and you know trees have sap, which is a fluid, why wouldn't the moon pull that too?
It's a logical leap. It's a fluid dynamics theory of the universe. And this practical observation reaches its peak in Polynesia. The source material talks about the Marimataka, the moon calendar.
This isn't just full moon good. This is a rigorous scientific system.
It is. It's dynamic and experiential. The Polynesians used the Maramataka to determine exactly when to fish and when to plant. They had specific names for every phase. For example, the phase Hodo was known for being good for fishing, but it wasn't a static grid like our calendar. It adapted to local
It
conditions.
was a survival tool. If you misread the moon, you didn't eat.
It was a matter of life and death.
But in England, we also have these moon books, and these feel a little more oddly specific, and maybe a little less scientific.
Moon books, or lunaries, were incredibly popular bestsellers. They were guides on what to do on each day of the lunar cycle.
Okay, give us some highlights. I want to know how to plan my month, medieval style.
Okay. Day 1. A good day to ask a king for a favor. The new moon implies new beginnings, so pitch your idea now.
Making a note of that. Day 1, ask for a raise.
Day 5 is my favorite. The text says you can steal something and probably not get caught.
Wait, what? The medical book is giving advice on theft?
Yeah.
That seems ethically dubious for a monk to be writing down.
It's practical advice. It's not judging the theft. It's just giving you the forecast. If the moon is dark or in a certain phase, maybe the guards are sleepy, or maybe the shadows are deeper.
It's wonderfully amoral. It's just telling you the probabilities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What else? Day 6, put hay in your bed to prevent pain. Maybe a little superstition there. Day 15, good for hunting wild boars.
It's this mix of the mundane and the oddly specific. But it shows they believe the moon governed the success or failure of every action. You don't just go hunting. You check the moon first.
You don't just steal a sheep. You check the moon first. And that extends to politics and high-stakes prophecy. We have the legend of Alexander the Great encountering the trees of the sun and moon in India.
This is one of my favorite bits in the book. Talking trees.
Alexander is at the edge of the known world. He finds a sacred grove with 2 holy trees. The sun tree speaks by day, the moon tree by night. And they don't speak Greek. They speak an Indian language that the high priest has to translate.
So he goes to the moon tree.
He approaches the moon tree at night, kisses the trunk, and asks the ultimate question. Will he conquer the world and return home to his mother?
And the tree is brutally honest.
It is. The moon tree prophesies his death in Babylon. It says he will die by the hands of those he trusts. It denies him the one thing he wants, to go home. And the text mentions that during an eclipse, these trees weep and bleed. They are effective. They feel pain.
That image of the bleeding tree connects the moon directly to the suffering of nature. And speaking of suffering, let's talk about the body. Section 4. The lunar body. Because if the moon pulls the tides and the sap, it definitely pulls the fluids in us.
This is the foundation of medieval medicine. Humoral theory. The body is made of fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. We already established the moon is cold and moist. Therefore, the moon governs the fluids.
And this brings us to the zodiac man. I've seen these diagrams. It's a guy with animals stamped all over his body.
It's a standard medical illustration. You'd see a man with a ram, Aries, on his head, a bull, Taurus, on his neck, a crab, Cancer, on his chest, all the way down to fish, Pisces, on his feet.
This wasn't just decorative art. This was an instruction manual for surgery.
It was a warning system known as malethesia. The rule was absolute. You must never cut or bleed a part of the body when the moon is in the sign governing that part.
So walk me through a scenario. I have a sore throat. I go to the doctor.
The doctor looks at his almanac. If the moon is in Taurus, the bull, which rules the neck, he will not touch you. No throat surgery, no bloodletting from the jugular. It would be malpractice.
Why? What did he think would happen?
He believed the moon is pulling so much blood and fluid to your neck that if he cuts you, you'll just bleed out.
So I have to wait until the moon moves into Gemini or something.
Exactly. Come back next week when the moon is in the feet. But if the moon is in Cancer, a water sign, it's a great time to take a bath or take liquid medicine, but a terrible time to operate on the lungs.
It's amazing to think of a surgeon looking out the window at the moon before deciding whether to pick up a scalpel. It connects the macrocosm of the sky to the microcosm of the body.
It was standard practice in both Christian and Islamic medicine. Physicians in Baghdad and Al-Andalus were very precise about this. Al-Anzarbi, a famous physician for the Caliph in Cairo, wrote specific warnings about bleeding during Taurus or Leo.
And there's a story about a Persian physician treating a rash by talking to the moon.
Yes. This is sympathetic magic mixed with medicine. He wiped the rash with a cloth while looking at the waning moon, the shrinking moon, and said, "As you diminish, make these spots smaller."
He's linking the biology of the patient to the cycle of the planet.
But the moon could also cause disease. There's the story of King Moon from South Asian tradition.
This is the story of Soma, the moon god.
Right. Soma has 27 wives who represent the lunar mansions or star clusters, but he's a bad husband. He ignores 26 of them because he's obsessed with just one, Rohini.
Typical bad husband behavior.
And the father of the other wives gets angry and curses him. The curse is a wasting disease consumption or tuberculosis.
So the waning of the moon, when it gets smaller every night, that's the king getting sick.
Exactly. It's a metaphor for physical wasting due to moral failure and sexual exhaustion. The moon's cycle becomes a medical chart for a dying god. When he waxes, he is healing. When he wanes, he is dying.
And we can't talk about the moon in medicine without talking about the big one. Madness. Lunacy.
The word itself comes from luna. The theory was that because the moon is moist, it makes the brain, which is also moist, too wet. An overly moist brain leads to seizures, epilepsy, and madness.
The source material mentions that epileptics were most grieved at the new and full moon.
Right. The gravitational pull on the brain fluids was strongest then. And the cures were wild. You could wear a peony root around your neck. Or, if you were desperate, wolf flesh.
Wolf flesh.
Wolf flesh, yeah. Or the cloughtwort herb, tied with a red thread, specifically during a waning moon.
It's always about timing. You have to catch the moon at the right moment to reverse the effects.
Because the moon is dynamic, it's always changing. And that changeability leads us to the darker side of the medieval moon. Section 5, Sorrows and Illusions.
This is where things get spooky. Let's talk about eclipses. Because if the moon is a timekeeper, an eclipse is like the clock breaking. It's an error in the system.
An eclipse was a terrifying disruption. Now, scientifically, scholars like Jonas Bosco knew what was happening. He correctly explained the shadows and alignment of the sun, earth, and moon. But mythically, it was a war zone.
In Norse mythology, it's a wolf, right?
Matagarmr, the moon dog. It chases the moon and eventually catches it, swallowing it and splashing blood across the sky.
That's how they explain the reddish tint of a lunar eclipse. It's blood.
It's blood. And in Persia, it's a dragon. The moon is trapped in the dragon's jaw. The dragon's head and tail are actually astronomical terms for the lunar nodes, the points where the moon's orbit crosses the sun's path, but the imagery is so violent.
And these weren't just stories. They thought these things had real-world consequences.
Oh, absolutely. Eclipses were blamed for everything. Storms, wars, death. There was even a widespread belief that the Black Death in 1345 was caused by a specific lunar eclipse and planetary conjunction.
Talk about bad press. Who caused the plague? The moon did.
Right.
But beyond the physical danger, the moon was also seen as a trickster. It's the master of illusion.
Because it changes shape, and because its light is reflected, it's not true light like the sun, it was associated with falsity. There are these great animal fables that illustrate this.
Like the rabbit and the elephant.
From the Kalila and Dimna collection. A rabbit wants to scare an elephant away from a spring where the rabbits live. So the rabbit tells the elephant, the moon is angry with you for drinking his water. He brings the elephant to the spring at night. The elephant sees the moon's reflection in the clear water.
And the rabbit says, touch of the water to apologize.
The elephant touches the water with his trunk, the surface ripples, and the reflection shakes. The rabbit screams, see, he's trembling with rage, he's going to kill you. The elephant is terrified and runs away.
It's a story about how easily power can be faked using the moon's image.
It is, and there's a similar one by the Scottish poet Henry Dusison, right? The Fox and the Wolf.
Classic.
The fox is trapped in a well in a bucket. He wants to get out. The wolf looks down and sees the reflection of the moon in the water. The fox convinces him it's not the moon, it's a giant wheel of cheese.
White as a turnip and round as a seal.
The greedy wolf jumps into the other bucket to go down and get the cheese. His weight pulls the fox's bucket up. The fox escapes, and the wolf is left at the bottom of a well with nothing but a wet reflection. It's the moon as fool's gold.
But the illusions weren't always funny. In Chaucer's The Franklin's Tale, a magician uses tables of the moon to create a massive illusion that all the dangerous rocks on the coast of Brittany have disappeared.
Just to help a guy win a bet and seduce a married woman, it reinforces the idea that moon magic is deceptive. It alters reality, but not permanently. It's unstable.
Now, we have to pivot to the religious side, because you'd think the church would hate the moon if it's associated with wolves, tricksters, and madness. But they actually embraced it.
They did, but with a very specific caveat. The church often compared itself to the moon. Why? Because the moon has no light of its own. It only reflects the sun.
And the sun is God.
Exactly. The church reflects God's light into the dark world. It's a beautiful metaphor for humility. But there's a fascinating story about a mystic named Juliana of Cornillon. She kept having a vision of a full moon with a bite taken out of it, a dark fracture.
What did it mean?
She interpreted it as the church, the moon, being incomplete because it was missing a specific feast day, a feast to celebrate the Eucharist. Her vision actually led to the establishment of the Feast of Corpus Christi.
So a moon vision actually changed the church calendar. That's influential.
It is. And then you have the Virgin Mary. You've seen paintings of her standing on a crescent moon.
Everywhere. Our Lady of Guadalupe, for example.
That comes from the book of Revelation, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. It symbolizes her dominance over the sublunary world. Remember, the moon is the threshold of change and rot. Mary stands on top of it. She tramples the changing world because she is eternal.
But sometimes she's on a full moon. What does that mean?
That usually represents the Immaculate Conception. The full moon represents perfection, purity, no dark spots, no sin.
And in Islam, the moon is central too.
The miracle of the splitting of the moon, Shaq al-Qamar by the Prophet Muhammad, the moon physically splits in two as a sign of his prophetic power and the approach of Judgment Day. The moon isn't just a rock. It's a canvas for divine action.
They're coming to the final stretch here, section 6, the lover's moon. Because for all the scary wolves and diagnostic charts, people still looked up and thought about romance.
Oh, it's universal. In Hispano-Arabic and Persian poetry, the moon is the ultimate standard of beauty. You don't say a girl is pretty, you say her face is like a full moon. Badr. It represents radiance, roundness, lighting up the dark.
It's the ultimate compliment.
It is. But then you have the Welsh poet, Dafydd of Gwilym, and he hates the moon.
He despises it. Why?
Because he's trying to have an illicit affair. He's sneaking through the woods to meet a married woman. He wants darkness. He needs cover. But the moon rises and acts like a giant spotlight, exposing him.
And he has some creative insults for it.
Oh, they are vicious. He calls it a finely meshed sieve, mocking its spots. He calls it a brass cauldron's brim. And my favorite, a loaf of frosts. He's literally yelling at the moon for ruining his date.
It's so relatable. It brings the moon down to earth. It's not a god. It's just a nuisance.
And that's the beauty of Lazikani's book. It captures all of this.
So let's wrap this up. We've covered a massive amount of ground. We've been to the moon capital with Princess Kaguya. We've been to the junkyard of lost wits with Astolfo. We've seen the moon as a medical chart, a calendar, a god, a trickster.
And a piece of cheese.
And a piece of cheese.
The synthesis here is that for the medieval mind, the moon was an alchemical mirror. It wasn't passive, it did things. It turned base metals into gold, it turned tides, it turned the fluids in your brain.
It explained things.
It explained why we get sick, when to plant, and where undead go.
And it was intimate. That's the word I keep coming back to.
Yes. They felt the moon in their blood, in their marrow. Today we have walked on the moon. We've mapped every crater. We know exactly what the spots are. But in gaining that knowledge, have we lost that intimacy?
That's the final provocation for you listening today. Next time you see the moon, ask yourself, are you seeing a satellite, a cold, dead rock? Or can you try to see it through their eyes as a reflection of your own world? Can you see your own anxieties, your loves, your lost wits staring back at you?
Maybe we need to look up with a little more medieval wonder.
I think we do. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the medieval moon. Keep looking up.
See you next time.